Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one!
Oladipo!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and
he hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Welcome into Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington and Endeavor Hospitality. Jim, obviously with us, but he'll be here in his seat just a moment. Welcome to the JTP Dustin Schutte Bracketology special. No, if only we could do that, but it looks like our old pal Jim is here in business as we get things rolling on a Monday here, the Monday after Selection Sunday. Jim, are you with us? Is he with us? Maybe
He's
he isn't
still
with us.
putting in his headphones at the moment.
Otherwise, while he's getting set up, Dustin Schutte with us from Outsider.com, as he is with us each and every week. Dustin, did you enjoy your Selection Sunday?
I always enjoy my Selection Sunday. Had some delivery, had some, I don't know, there's a restaurant here. It's a chain called Miller's Ale House. They have these great like chicken tenders and they soak them in whatever sauce. So had some of that, had some mozzarella sticks, worked, but also enjoyed the Big Ten championship game, Selection Sunday. I mean, it's one of my favorite days of the year. And now, I don't know if anybody will know what I'm talking about, but for the rest of March, I kind of watch March Madness with like that Larry Bird from the Pacers Hawks series where he's just like face palming himself and he can't see anything. That's how I watch March Madness, is my hand constantly in my face because they're so nerve-wracking.
And even, I mean, I shut off the Big Ten championship game yesterday early, considering Purdue was up, 16 points?
They were up 17, yeah.
Just a few minutes left. And Penn State playing I guess it would have been their fourth game in a row.
Yep.
Charges all the way back from being down 17 and nearly pulls off the upset. But Purdue ultimately does enough to get the job done, subsequently earning a 1 seed. So I guess it's about time to really just do that now, Dustin, right? Dive into this year's NCAA tournament bracket. Normally I wouldn't feel so flustered, but with Jim sitting outside trying to figure out what's going on, it's kind of got me trying to worry about two things at once, making sure he's getting his stuff situated and also trying to host a show. So my apologies if things seem a little off with me.
It's also a Monday. Things get a little scatterbrained here on a Monday. I mean, so from the let me go back and talk briefly about the Big Ten tournament. I thought Indiana, when they played Maryland, played extremely well. The kind of basketball I thought a lot of people expected this Indiana team when they're kind of playing at their best. I know they had some lulls in that game, but when they're at their best, they're a really good team. You saw the exact opposite of that in the next game against Penn State. And I know they made a charge back. They put on that full court press late in the game. I thought Jalen Hood-Schifino with that late three, they probably could have driven to the basket the way they were pressuring and the way that Penn State couldn't inbound the ball, get it across the time stripe. I thought that they could have potentially set up, a situation where they could have gotten 2-2s and probably either sent it to overtime or won the game. So I think there was a little bit of panic there, but heading into March Madness, it's really concerning that Indiana can't put or hasn't been able to put two games together back-to-back in a month. That's my biggest takeaway. But as we talked about before we joined on here, I think that they've got a pretty favorable draw. Kent State, that they're a good team, but certainly Indiana should have the talent advantage. And then if you are able to win that game, you get the winner of Miami Drake, and certainly the ACC has been down this season. So if Indiana plays the way they played against Maryland, they're capable of getting to the Sweet 16. There's no doubt in my mind. I think that that's a really good I think that's a really good matchup for them, and potentially you could see a future potential matchup against Xavier at some point in this tournament if they can make a deep run. The problem is, I feel confident that Indiana will play really well in their first game, but that second game, man, For whatever reason, they have not been able to back up a win with another good performance. And that's something we'll probably talk about a little bit later in the show. But that's my biggest concern. I think when you look at the draw, when you look at your seed line, the teams you're going to have to play, I think everything kind of fell in place for Indiana to make a solid run. But you've got to put some games together, and I just haven't seen that in the last month.
Looks like our leader, man of action, the Jim Coyle, is back with us. Are you with us?
Leader, I don't know about that, but yeah, I'm here. I had to try to get everything reconnected after having everything gone, and the earplugs or earbuds were not reconnecting, and so just have to do with a little bit different sound is all. But yeah, what a weekend! What a wait! Figuring out where you're going next. I was thinking last night, my bedroom is funny. You walk in and you see a suitcase, a full backpack, a full garment bag, all ripped open to be re-gutted and refilled, and headed to Albany.
Not Orlando. But the positive is if Indiana gets past the Sweet or gets to the Sweet 16, you're headed back to Kansas City, Missouri. You can stop at Patrick Mahomes' Whataburger again.
Yeah, thought about that. Which is not bad. Could have been worse. A lot better than Portland.
Yeah.
A lot better than Portland. But more importantly about the draws, like you guys were talking about. And I think that this is favorable for Indiana.
Yeah.
They'll have no excuses. They have the talent to do what they need to do. And it will be interesting. I heard you guys talking. That's the thing, is stringing games together. And now you have to string games together against teams you have not seen, that you have no familiarity with, which may be a positive because they have no familiarity with you either. But I think the fact that Indiana can be one-dimensional gives teams a shot at how to defend. But you have to have the talent to defend Trace Jackson Davis, Jalen Hood-Schifino, and very, very few teams do. And if Race Thompson can find that gear he found at certain times, they've just got to find a way to not play hard, to not give their all, to not do what they come out. They had these great starts the last couple of games, and then all of a sudden they allow teams to allow teams to dictate to them.
Yeah.
And I just seen that after a few games, which is surprising because they come out with great starts, gain confidence, and then they allow the teams to flip the script on them. A little surprising, but hopefully they keep learning.
I think that one of the things Indiana struggled with is when they've played, I don't know if desperate is the right word, but that's a word that the players have used. Miller Kopp, I think, said that, and I've heard, as a matter of fact, I think we'll have a comment today where that word was used by one of the players. Well, I mean, and you go back, Michigan State, they really needed a win at home back in late February. They beat Indiana 80-65. I don't know if Iowa was desperate, but I mean, they came out and they're playing for seeding. They were playing for a high seed in the Big Ten tournament. Michigan, they were playing for their tournament lives, and that game went to overtime. Indiana did win that one. Penn State, they were not a certainty for the NCAA tournament coming into the Big Ten tournament, so they played with some desperation. And now you go into the NCAA,
a lifeline,
right? And so now you go into the NCAA tournament where every team you play has that desperate mindset. And the thing that I think you have to be, I don't know if concerned is the right word, but if you're Indiana, you've got to be aware of the fact that Kent State is capable of scoring a lot of points. They can also drag you into a phone booth and knock you around because they've won games 45-44. They're comfortable playing games in the 70s. They're comfortable playing games in the 40s. So this isn't necessarily a game where Indiana is going to dictate the tempo and it's going to throw Kent State off. They're very comfortable playing a variety of facets of the game. They almost beat Houston in a sub-50 game. So Indiana's going to have to – this is no typical 13 slouch, right? This is going to be a hard-fought game. This is going to be a tough matchup for Indiana, I think particularly on the defensive end.
Well, it always is. When you get to the tournament, everyone's going to give you – A, Indiana's going to get everyone's best shot.
Right.
B, it's the tournament, and you're going to get everyone's best shot. It's just how it is. They play as they should, like they've got nothing to lose. And that's how it should be. I'm clicking over to there's so many brackets to get through.
That is the thing. I mean, you got to go through and because not all these have the time or the channel or all that. So you got to find the perfect bracket. But I mean, Jim, I know you love, well, I guess it's a Friday night, so it's not as bad, but I'm sure you love the 10 o'clock tip.
Oh. Indiana has only played nighttime games thus far in the tournaments.
Yep.
Indiana
that's a good point.
versus Kent State is the second to last game of the first round. Just to throw that out there.
Shocker.
They got to get everybody up on they got to get everybody, all eyeballs on that game. At least it's a Friday. At least it's not one of the Thursday games. But the problem is that means if they win, they'll probably have a late game on Sunday. Maybe not as late, but.
Yeah, not as late because Sunday's in the afternoon, right?
Well, it'll probably still be evening because of the number of games, but it might be like a 7:30, 8 o'clock as opposed to 9:55.
See how it's hard to make travel schedules?
I did, yes, I do. Such a pain in the ass.
The fact that they don't even play till 10 on Friday, you would think that, oh, wow, you can get in there slide in on Friday. Now, 2 o'clock on Thursdays, all the stuff goes on. You got to get there early. So, can you get there Thursday morning? I don't know. You might have to get there Wednesday night. Well,
because it's not just because, and part of this too, to explain is it's not like you just show up, go to the game, and then leave. Yeah, you do. There's press conferences, there's practice, there's shoot around, other games. So, and then if they win, obviously you got to do that all over again. So I think sometimes our viewers and listeners are very intelligent. They know this, but it's not like you just show up, go to the game, eat a hot dog, and then head out to your hotel room with nothing else to do. It's a lot of work. You got to take a lot of equipment. So it is a little bit more painful than if you're just going as a fan. If you're a fan, you can just show up at 5 o'clock in New York on Friday and then waltz into the game. But
long days. The length of the days. That's the.
Yep.
And the walking.
I don't mind the walking part.
And I'm talking about inside the damn stadium. I've never done more walking at an arena than I did at the United Center. And that was mainly to get to the restroom.
By the way,
fewest restrooms per person of any stadium I've ever been in my life.
Really?
It's probably finding them as part of it because there's so many layers to the United Center.
Yeah. It's
like it has 3 rings around it. It's like Saturn.
Was there a strike going on? Was that strike that Chris Denary told us about last week still going on with the concessions?
Well, if it was, that didn't affect them because they had other people in there.
Okay.
But I didn't go to the concession stand.
I didn't know if you ever
I
saw
saw
or heard.
a lot of people there working in the bowels, but then again, I don't know what the hell they do.
Right.
There's so many workers at a place like that. But you could tell they were day workers. I don't think that they had way too many people there for there to have been problems, and I didn't hear anything about any issues. So I just wonder what the crowd would have been like on Sunday had it been Indiana and Purdue.
Oh, it would have been crazy.
Yep. But if Indiana was going to lose, it was probably better that they lost to Penn State and not to Purdue if they were going to lose. I'm not saying that they would have. They may have beaten Purdue for the Big Ten championship, and that would have been sweeter than anything for the Hoosiers. But if you go in there and you happen to lose that game, because Purdue's a damn good team. It's not like those were easy wins.
Right.
But if you lose that game, boy, is that what you want to take into the NCAA tournament? Losing to Purdue in the Big Ten championship for a chance to win your first Big Ten tournament title. That to me would have left a real lingering bitterness that could have resulted in a hangover for them. Now I think that, all right, we lost to a hungry Penn State team, but and it's much easier to flush it than it is had it been that other situation, I think.
Well, I don't disagree with you. I mean, there's two ways to look at it. One, are you going to have a hangover because it's a bad way to go out? Or two, is it going to tick you off enough to go out and play better the next game? So you can look at it one of two ways. But Indiana losing to me wasn't a big deal in the Big Ten tournament. I don't put a ton of stock into the Big Ten tournament other than teams that are on the bubble need to play well and win a few games. I was shocked by the way that Rutgers didn't get in. That was out of all the bubble teams that didn't get in, I thought Rutgers probably should have, considering their resume.
Oh, but, I didn't realize. I haven't seen that yet.
But I don't put a lot of stock in the Big Ten tournament. But the concerns that I have for Indiana is what we talked about earlier. The fact that for a month now, they have not been able to string together back-to-back performances. They just, for whatever reason, they have not been able to do it. And that's a problem because you've got to win 2 games in 3 days to be able to stay alive in March Madness. And we talked about that. To me, this is about as good of a draw as you could ask for. Kent State, like I said, Kent State's a good team. They can beat you a variety of ways, but I think ultimately Indiana's going to have a major talent advantage with Jalen Hood-Schifino, Trace Jackson-Davis. You get to that second game, though, against Miami, and we've talked about the ACC was down. I don't think Miami is great. You can win that game.
Yes, but Miami this is going to be a tough game. That's
it's
a
dangerous
tough matchup. And Nigel Pack.
Yep.
Nigel Pack, who is originally from Indiana, actually should probably be playing in Indiana, but was not recruited by Archie Miller. And he went to Kent State. He went to Kansas State originally, and then made a boatload of money. Got him an $800,000 NIL deal in Miami from courtesy of Mr. John Ruiz. And he's balling, living life, man. Can you imagine being a college kid making $400,000 a year?
I can't imagine being a college student making $4 a year.
I'm like, seriously though, 400 G's, baby.
I know.
I mean,
I worked.
He's balling, driving around in a big old, who knows, Tesla or whatever.
In college, I worked 3 jobs, and I still don't think I ever hit triple digits in my bank account the entire time I was there. So I can't imagine having six figures in your bank account at that age. My goodness.
The bracket that Indiana's in also some other little tidbits of eventuality that could come, and that is a meeting with Kelvin Sampson.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
down the road. And I mean, that would be, they'd have to win. They'd have to get to the quote unquote championship game of the regional, whatever you want to call it. The Elite Eight.
No, they only have to get to the Sweet 16 to face Houston.
Oh, not the Elite Eight.
Correct. Because there are 4. One plays a 4 if they make it, if it goes chalk.
There you go. John with the dropping the knowledge. You know what? Here's the thing, real quick, is that I think if you go back to when Indiana was playing its best basketball, mid to late January into February, or maybe it was all of January, I get the months mixed up now, and you saw this bracket, you would say Indiana's got a great shot to get to the Final Four. A great shot when you look at this draw. Houston, the number 1 team, but they've got some major questions. The 2 seed is Texas. They're good. They would have, potentially a rematch with Xavier at some point. There are no easy brackets, but of all the brackets, this is probably the most manageable. But again,
let me say something, Dustin. I think, especially if you look at every other tournament Indiana's been in since the Tom Crean era, this is without a doubt the most favorable draw they've gotten. And I
would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Even when they were a 1 seed.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I think you look up and down and you say, man, we got lucky. This is the most manageable set of games, set of teams to get to the Final Four. And again, if Indiana can channel some of what it was doing in January and early February, when they won 8 and 9 or whatever it was, I mean, watch out, because they could get to the Final Four. I just, for the past month, haven't seen it, so I've got some serious questions about whether or not they're going to be able to get by Miami. But man, if I'm an Indiana fan, I'm excited about being in that bracket.
Robert says Miami's wounded. He thinks Drake takes him out. And as a matter of fact, Drake was somebody's dark horse team to watch. I don't know if it was Dan Dockich or somebody I heard say Drake. They were asked for a team to watch out. It was Drake. I think it was Dan that said that. I heard him on something. So there you go. That's a distinct possibility, especially with Miami being a little wounded. Probably would be the Indiana's favor for that to happen.
Hey, before we get to break, while you're filling out your brackets today, don't forget to put before we get to break, for those listening and watching on YouTube, don't forget to submit your bracket to the Indiana Sports Beat fans submission page on ESPN Tournament Challenge that Mr. Pete Clausen set up for us.
Have you put that information out?
I didn't know I needed to put it anywhere, but I've been talking about it on here.
Well, how do people know where to go?
We tell them now. First of all, download the ESPN Tournament Challenge app. That's the first thing you'll need to do. Make an account. It's free. And then when you're done making your bracket, you submit it to, again, the title of the group is Indiana Sports Beat Fans, and the password is Indiana with a capital I.
Yeah, we'll have to repeat that numerous times.
And your submissions are good until Thursday, so that's plenty.
If you didn't hear it now, you're out of luck.
Yeah, this is the only time you'll hear it, right?
No, we gotta keep talking about it. Not that we are not benefiting from it in any way. So I've got to take the time to fill that thing out myself. I've got to repack. Oh, is it time for a break?
It is time for a break.
All right, we got to take a break because the great one, the voice of the Hoosiers, up next with us. Don Fischer joins us as he prepares for just his second NCAA tournament game in 6 years. So good for Don to get back as well. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Ugly Grouper down in Anna Maria Island. For all those of you listening, that I know that a lot of you guys listen on YouTube. So for those down in Florida, or when you go on vacation near Sarasota, it's on Anna Maria Island, and I know several of you have been there already, and love it. And it is the food is tremendous. It's one of the best restaurants in that part of the state, I believe. And stop by and especially get you a hat. They're cool. We've got lots more coming up. Don Fischer joins us right after this. We'll be back.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Fact check, this is Don Fischer's third NCAA tournament game because Indiana played in the first 4 last year.
Oh, that's right.
I want to see Fran McCaffrey try to punch Kelvin Sampson in the face.
Oh man, somebody brought that up. Is Iowa the path? Could you imagine? Well, but see, here's the thing. Fran McCaffrey, in his 462 years of coaching, has never made the Sweet 16.
He might whine his way all the way there this year.
Man, I don't know.
Let me throw this out here too before, because I know I won't get to say this again probably. It makes no sense to me how Houston, as the second overall 1 seed, is in the Midwest region and not the West. Kansas, as the number 3 overall seed, was given the West region and not the East. How does that benefit them?
I believe that the number 1 seeds get to pick where they play. I could be wrong
in
on
order
this,
in order of where they're selected. I mean, I guess that makes sense then. I didn't know
if Kansas would have been the number 1 overall seed, they probably take the Midwest because then it's in Kansas City. But since it was Alabama,
why would Houston not want the West? Is it closer to Kansas City, I guess?
I don't know.
Than Vegas?
That's a good question. I don't know. I would guess Houston to Louisville is closer than Houston to Houston to Vegas.
Yeah, why would Houston not? Well, I guess they can't, but they couldn't pick the South because Alabama got the South.
Right. Or they picked the Midwest, right? Kansas City.
Yes. No.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Houston did. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's how I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Is the teams in that order get to pick where they go.
Okay. I didn't know that. If that's the case. Good morning, Mr. Fischer.
Morning.
Oh, yeah. Don feels exactly like I do. I can already tell.
Yeah, I'm not in the best mood this morning. Got a couple things going on that's really ticked me off. So I'll try to be a little more pleasant on the air.
Well, we appreciate you coming on as always.
Not a problem, boys.
Travel? Does it have to do with travel?
Not really. No, it's another problem that I'm dealing with. So
that's the first thing I'm doing already last night. I'm like miserable. I'm tired. I'm like, all I was doing was trying to deal with traveling, scheduling.
That's the only thing I don't have to. Well, I've got the scheduling problem is an issue, but I don't want to talk about it.
All right, here we go, guys.
Stone Restaurant provides delicious 5-star comfort food with a Southern charm at 2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday, and that means the voice of the Indiana Hoosiers, Don Fischer, brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant, Patterson and Rogers in Bloomington. Stop by and get a taste of the Southern fare from Southern Stone. Welcome in, Don Fischer. Don, how are you after the long weekend, man? How's the voice holding up?
The voice is not very good, but it's better than it was on Saturday, without question. I feel a little bit better. My cold, I literally had a cold come on me. This has happened twice now in the last year. I literally wake up one morning with no symptoms of anything like that, and all of a sudden I got a cold. I mean, it literally is ridiculous. And so at any rate, I picked up this cold on Wednesday, which was a bad time to get it because that's what we travel to Chicago. And by Saturday, I was almost out of voice when that game ended. I was really not happy that we got beat, but I was really happy about the fact that if I had to do another ball game, I might have been done by halftime.
Well, you get a chance to rest this week off until Friday. As a matter of fact, almost Saturday morning, Don. So you get on the entire week to rest, as Indiana won't tip until nearly 10 o'clock Friday night, which that is absolutely nuts. I'm sure you're not happy about that.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that we would be tipping off until 10 o'clock at night? Well, because nobody on the East Coast wants to stay up that late unless it's really a big name team.
Yes, people don't get. I keep telling Indiana is a brand, man. That's why they play these games, and Indiana is always involved in these certain things. It is a brand that sells. People watch Indiana and always have, and they always will. They need to win now. This is an opportunity they have not had for a while. They go into this NCAA tournament set last year. In talking to Trace when they first showed up for the Big Ten tournament, he said it was a different mindset because last year they had the stress of trying to make the NCAA tournament. Well, they're in. They didn't have to worry about that this year, and they don't have to worry about it now. And they don't have to worry about going to Portland and jetting around like you had to do with the first four in and all that stuff. So they get plenty of time off. And I think I got a favorable draw. Not that they have an easy path. There's no easy path in this tournament, but I think they got a favorable draw. They play Kent State first, and then a potential matchup with Miami if they can get by Drake.
Yeah, and Drake's not a bad team. I mean, Drake is a really good basketball team, and DeVries, the coach there, has done a phenomenal job since he's been there. I think this is his 5th season. They've been spectacular in the Missouri Valley, and they will be a challenge. There's no question about it. But I think it's a decent draw too. And of course, Miami, a really good basketball team, and Jim Larrañaga does a tremendous job with that program and has for years now, since coming over from George Mason. And they're going to be a very difficult team to beat. There's no question about that. But you got to get past the first one to get to the second one. So the only one you're really concerned about right now is Kent State, who is a really good defensive basketball team.
But that's
and
one of the
it's
things.
Funny. I remember speaking of Indiana playing Kent State back in 2002 when Indiana went to the championship game, Final Four. They upset Duke. In the famous game where Todd standing on the table, I think. He
never was on the table. He never got on the table, but he stood on his chair.
Okay.
He got up on his chair and he's going crazy, I love you, Don, and all this kind of crap. And it was really kind of fun, to say the least. We had a great time down there, no question about it. And Todd was not afraid to get excited.
No, not at all. But they win that big game, but they have to come back, and they had to play a Kent State team right after that. And
blew them away.
What's that?
They blew them away. I mean, Indiana played in that ball game. Indiana knocked down 3-point shots like it was going out of style. Dane Fife got hot in that ball game. They had just a tremendous game against Kent State. It wasn't really close, and it'll change this time, I think. This team from Kent State, I think, is very good defensively, especially. They go small. They're not a big team, but they play really hard and they play really tough. You can't take anybody lightly when you get to this point in the tournament. They're just that simple. And if you are able to blow somebody out and rest your players, that's what everybody hopes for. But it's rarely happens. You've got to play hard.
Typically, Don, in these type of games, the higher seed Indiana in this situation would try to dictate tempo. But one of the things that's going to be interesting to me is you look up and down Kent State, their season. They've won games. They've not been afraid to play in the 70s. They're also not afraid to drag you into a phone booth and play games in the 40s. Yeah. So I don't even know if tempo is going to be a big factor in this game, because I think Kent State, excuse me, I get mixed up with Kennesaw State. Kent State is capable of playing a variety of ways. For me, I think this is going to be one of those games where Indiana's defense is going to have to travel, because if you're not hitting shots, Kent State's perfectly fine winning the game 45-42.
Absolutely. They're going to be a challenge. I don't think it's going to be an easy ball game. And I don't think if you go into the NCAA tournament, it doesn't matter who you play. And you don't, if your mind's not right, like this is going to be a battle and you're going to have to match intensity. You're going to have to match toughness, all those kinds of things. You're going to get beat. I mean, and it's a one and done show, as everybody knows. And Indiana, even though they were in it just a short time last year, they had a play-in game. They beat Wyoming, and then they went out to Portland. It was not a good trip out to Portland, incidentally, if everybody remembers that they really didn't start out until 4:00 in the morning, which was ridiculous. But at the same time, they had to change planes, all these kind of problems travel-wise. I watched these players on that plane on the charter that night, and they couldn't get any sleep. They were walking around. Trey Galloway was actually trying to find someplace to get comfortable, laying on the floor, stuff like that. It was just a bad trip. And then they played a St. Mary's team that was really good and just kicked the snot out of them in the second half of that ball game. So honestly, you've got to go in with the right mindset. And this Indiana basketball team with the guys that are back this year, with Miller Kopp, and even though X is not playing, he's on the bench. You got Trace and Race. These guys have all been there, and they are a part of that, and they knew what happened. So I think their mind should be right going into this tournament. It's not going to be easy no matter who they play, and if they look at it from that perspective, they'll give themselves a good chance to win.
Yeah, before you came on, I mentioned losing is never fun, but it may have been better for them to lose to Penn State than to make it to the title game of the Big Ten and lose to Purdue. Then you're losing a championship game to your rival, and then you deal with all that. I don't know if that would have changed things or not. I don't know, but I don't know if it matters now because they're playing Kent State, and they play kind of like or Kent State rather, and Penn State is a team that plays kind of small as well, and was able to find some advantages against Indiana, and that's something that I don't know that Kent State has the talent that Penn State does. That can, if they can shoot like Penn State, because Penn State was able to knock the three down from different guys. They had so many guys that could knock it down.
Well, the big story here is, like I said before, Kent State's defense. That's the question mark. How will they attack Indiana from a defensive perspective? Because I think that's the kind of defense they play. They're attacking defensively. They're trying to make you turn the ball over. They're trying to be a team that's very difficult to score against. Will they, since they are smaller, how will they play Indiana defensively? Will they dig down like, a couple of teams have against Trace? Have guys come over. Michigan State did that very effectively against IU. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. But the big key, I think, for Indiana is to be able to have everybody step up and play their role in this ball game. Miller Kopp, Trey Galloway, those two guys didn't do much at all in the Big Ten tournament, especially the second game, the Penn State ball game. Galloway, I think, is just wore out. I think he's a guy that really needs this 4 or 5 days prior to this next ball game to kind of get his legs back. You know how hard he plays and has played all season long. He looked like he was not himself in those games up in Chicago. And so hopefully this really helps him kind of get back to who he is. But Miller's got to start shooting the basketball, and he can't worry about the first one not going down and then not taking hardly any of the rest of the ball game, especially when they're there. Race has got to play exceptional as he can. And I thought he played his best game of the year, in my opinion, against Michigan. He was just terrific in that game, how hard he played, that kind of thing. All these guys know what their role is, and they've got to fulfill that role if they're going to go anywhere in this tournament.
I know you're not a guy that likes to look ahead past the game immediately, so I don't want to get too far off here the beaten path. But at the same time,
do it anyway.
But I'm going to do it anyway. But the thing concerning me heading into this tournament for Indiana is they have not been able to string 2 games together really for about a month. Right. And you've got to win 2 games in 3 days. I mean, do you think that these recent struggles have been a factor of fatigue and exhaustion? In particular, I asked that question because, again, we talked about this maybe the past 2 weeks. They just don't get very much from their bench on a consistent basis. So the starters have to take on, they're carrying the world on their shoulders, it seems like, every single game.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, at this point in the season, your bench is always shortened, right? I mean, you shorten the bench. That's what coaches do. They're going to go with the guys they trust, especially in these circumstances. And so who do you trust? Well, the two guys that they trust the most right now are Malik Renew and Tamar Bates. Tamar Bates in the tournament past weekend played his best of the season, putting back-to-back games together, even though one was more prolific scoring-wise than the other. But the other thing about him, he's starting to play really good at the defensive end. He's keeping people in front of him. They're not getting by him. He is energetic out there in that regard. So if you've got 7 guys, and that's pretty much what all these teams do right now at this point in the year, they're basically playing 7, maybe 8 guys, and not much past that. Hardly anybody gives anybody a lot of minutes past those 7 guys. So we'll just see how it all plays out. But my feeling on this is that Indiana needed to get their legs back. So to get beat in the second game of the Big Ten tournament did not hurt them in that regard. So they've got more time to get their legs back, because I think this Big Ten tournament, or the Big Ten tournament, can really take it out of you if you go the 3 days. We'll see how Purdue fares from that perspective, even though they're probably got a pretty easy road. Texas Southern or Fairleigh Dickinson, their first opponent. So we'll see.
And that's interesting, because you could potentially have a Purdue Dusty May matchup in that second round, because if Florida Atlantic plays Memphis, and that's a 9th seed, so there could be a little bit of a rivalry in that second game. If I'm Purdue, I don't really care for that draw, considering how well FAU's played this year.
Yeah, they've been terrific, and Dusty's one of the really great people at IU that I've had a great relationship with for many years now. We played a lot of cards when Mike Davis was the head coach at Indiana in those 6 seasons that Mike was there. And we just had a ball. He's one of those really great, classy people from Indiana, former manager, an assistant coach, under coach Mike Davis back in the day. And I'm just so happy for him that his ball club's in there, and they've had such a fantastic season. It'll be interesting to see how they fare if they would end up playing Purdue in that second game.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to how that rolls out. Dusty, defensive guy, man, and had a great season. He was on with us earlier, so hopefully like to see him go far as well. So, and even Penn State and Micah Shrewsbury.
Well, this is interesting. This is interesting. The Big Ten's got 8 teams in. Some people thought it was going to be 9 or 10, and I knew that wasn't going to happen. I didn't believe it would happen. Let's put it that way. But you've got 3 teams from the Big Ten in the Midwest region, which is really kind of ironic, is it not? I mean,
I didn't think they could.
Huh?
2, 4, 6, 8. I would have thought that they wouldn't have done that. I would have thought that they would have just spread it out 2, 4, 6, 8 around.
Well, they only put 1 Big Ten team in the South. They only put 1 Big Ten team. They actually put 2 in the East, but and they put 2 in the West. But in the Midwest, it's Indiana, Iowa, and Penn State. So it's possible you could face 2 other Big Ten teams again. Depending on if you get there.
Which is not may not be the matchup Indiana looking for, especially if it's a team they've lost to.
Right,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Don, well, you go rest the voice, man, because you're back at it again on Thursday or Friday. At least you get to wait till Friday night.
Yeah, we do get to wait till Friday night. There's no question. We'll probably leave on Wednesday sometime. I haven't got the itinerary just yet, but it's going to be an exciting time. It's always exciting when you get to go to the NCAA tournament. It is gravy. There's no question about that. And you've got to be excited for this Indiana program, because for the second straight year in the NCAA, and it was like 6 years before that they hadn't played in the NCAA tournament, which is just really not good, if you know what I mean.
But good to have you back. Good to see you as well, Don, and we'll see you soon, sir. See you in New York.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it. Dustin, I love the look of the golf club sitting behind you, man.
Thank you. They do a lot of good in my room and not on the golf course.
No, it just makes me drool, though. It makes me drool, guys.
It's soon, Don. Soon.
Yeah,
It's
I know,
coming
I
soon.
know.
The
See you
great
guys.
Don Fischer, the voice of the Indiana Hoosiers, graciously joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat. So happy to have him here. Brought to you by Southern Stone Restaurant, Patterson and Rogers in Bloomington. Make sure you stop by and get a taste of the Southern fare at Southern Stone. We're back with the great Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Golfers, here's the deal.
Good morning, Mr. Dustin.
Good morning. What's happening?
Changing suitcases, just dumping
right.
one out and filling another one up.
Of course. Here, Albany's lovely this time of year. It's just as lovely as Dearborn, Michigan, I'm sure.
Feels like we're in on a Zoom meeting or something. Like
Just waiting for things to start.
So
Hey guys, what's happening? These road trips where they send you to 2 games at one site in 3 days are a blast because you get to stay in Detroit for a while. It's great, especially because I'm not playing anybody this weekend. Like Halliburton's out, Turner's out, Matherin's out, Buddy Hield might sit out, McConnell's out. It's Saturday night was a free for all. It's gonna be even better on Monday, or even better tonight. Spectacular. So
I wish
it's not playing anybody either. Ivy's on COVID protocols.
we're still doing that, huh? I wish that the NBA would like move up its season and then take the All-Star break around this time as opposed to when they actually take it.
Yeah. No,
You only have to move it up like a few weeks.
You can't do it. I mean, the break would be fine, but you can't have the game with the tournament. Like that'd be
This goes to my point of not playing the game anymore.
fair. They're not going to not play the game, and also, again, shut your mouth for 1 full year.
They're not going to take it away for a year.
Judy, I thought we handled. I don't care. You do not speak that out loud. Do
Okay.
not let anybody know you think that.
I love the NBA All-Star
Asking
game.
that question. Stop talking immediately.
I have it saved. I'm going to watch it again actually today because I love it so much.
Exactly, because it's wonderful. No,
It
you
is.
already have plans to come to Indianapolis.
I do. I've got my flight booked.
Yep, exactly. You
Hotel
have the
reservations.
hotels. Yep. You had to push
Here we
people
go,
out,
guys.
not just to be closer to it.
Selection with a sommelier on staff to help you with your selections. Feast also provides a wide variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, pastries, all made fresh and mouthwatering. Stop by Feast Market and Cellar today.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Monday, the 13th. Good thing it's not Friday. Brought to you by our good friends from Remax Realty and Cheryl Sizemore. If you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, make sure you look up Cheryl Sizemore, and you need her 2 decades of experience to get the home you want. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Welcome in the man, the myth, the legend, Dustin Dopirak. How's your travels going? Because it looks like you're in a hotel room right now.
I am in a hotel in lovely Dearborn, Michigan. It's snowing outside. So yeah, 3-day kind of 2 games in 3 days deal. Where they're having a few more of these in the NBA where they're playing teams not back to back on back to back nights, but back to back games in the same place. It is nice to be able to go somewhere and stay and not have to get on a plane. Driving it, drove up here to start with and didn't have to go anywhere yesterday. So that was nice. I can't complain about that. Get to go to the same place, get more of a feel for the joint. It's an interesting couple of days for the Pacers. They are giving some guys some days off because the Pistons, 1, are bad, and 2, have some guys out. So they played a whole wreck of guys on Saturday. They had Halliburton is taking some time off with a bruised knee. Miles Turner sore back. TJ McConnell sore back. Benedict Mathurin is actually out. Got carried off the floor on Thursday with an ankle injury. Rick Carlisle still not being forthcoming with his long-term sort of timeline, but it's a sprain. That's all that we can say. That so I don't think it's season-ending at this point, but it's serious. But also, Buddy Hield's on the injury report with left foot soreness today, which I think is just we're finding a reason to give Buddy a day off. But they played, I don't know, they just opened up the end of the bench on Saturday night and played everybody, and they'll probably do the same thing again today. And they still won. So they could probably do that again today and still win, because the team the Pistons throwing out there, probably wins the tournament, but I'm not sure. Not totally certain about that. So, it's an interesting couple of days up here, but it's the NBA. It's fun.
Yeah. So what's it like having to cover the NBA while the NCAA tournament is going on, when all that stuff is happening? It has to be almost a distraction.
Yeah. Well, a couple things. First off, it's cool to talk about it in the locker room, because that's what they're watching.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. These guys are basketball junkies, some of them in particular. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton wants to know what's going on everywhere all the time. You can have fun conversations with these guys about what's happening in college basketball, because they care. They're sports fans. They are. I mean, they're athletes. They're hoopers. You can have a great conversation with Tyrese about football. You could probably, Miles Turner is kind of an in and out of the locker room type guy. But he was a baseball guy growing up, and they love talking about that stuff. It's an easy in for you to have a conversation, because it's not that you're on the same level. Obviously, they could probably go do whatever other sport you're talking about way, way better than you can. But all the same, they have a fan gene, and so it's the same as anything else. Whereas if you're a sports writer, part of the perk is being able to go to any bar in America and be able to talk to somebody about sports, and so you can do that, in a professional locker room.
Okay.
If you're not legal or whatever, Schutte, or you just don't like bars. But
wait a second. No. I'm going to chime in here, because now we got a conversation here. So
right.
I agree with your point to an extent. The problem is when you say you're a sports writer, broadcaster, whatever. I feel like people then make their pitch as to why they should be in your profession.
Oh, they do. Yeah.
By spilling out everything of sports knowledge they know. Instead of having a conversation, I learned every piece of trivia that nobody wants to know.
That's true. That does not happen in an NBA locker room, because they would rather be doing what they're doing and getting paid a lot of money to do it. Way, way more than you make. They're not really interested in that. Every once in a while they do. Buddy Hield decided he was going to interview Jalen Smith the other night while we were sitting there. So Buddy was just being Buddy and grabbed his phone. The funny part is he walked up with his phone. He did not hit record on it. I don't know if he knows where the record function is on your phone. But he did come up and ask a legitimate question to Jalen Smith, because he was the last guy in the locker room, and he's Buddy, and he's just said, what the hell? But yeah, my point is, to go back to the beginning, these guys will sit around and talk about sports with you, because they care, they're interested. If they're sitting in the locker room, that means they have 15 minutes. They don't have anything that they have to do. So it is an easy way to get you in there and have them seeing you as less of an annoyance and someone else to talk to about what they're watching. When I walk in there, Halliburton's hurt, so when he's not doing anything, he is on his phone looking at scores. That's what he's doing. So, I walked in there, I'm like, did I hear Indiana got beat? He says, yeah, Penn State just trucked him, and it was how'd your Cyclones do? He said, Jalen Wilson went off on him, man. It was brutal. He just killed him. So that's fun. I mean, to go back to your initial question, Jim, I definitely have a little bit of FOMO. I'm not going to lie. I'm used to being somewhere and covering a tournament at this point, And like the one thing about the NBA that you don't get that you get in college basketball is you get free basketball to watch in college basketball. If you when you get to this time of year and it's tournaments, like if you wanted to, and I don't know if you did, but if you were up in Chicago on Friday, you could have gone, to games starting at noon and been there all day.
Right.
And sat there and watched free basketball, and you don't have to work. You don't have to write anything. You can tweet if you want. I mean, maybe you create something for yourself to give you some reason to blog about the other games if you're just covering one team. But then you just otherwise just get to sit there and watch free basketball all day. And then everybody that you've crossed paths with at other Big Ten schools the rest of the year is there. Okay, and they're going to the bar afterwards. So like that part's really, really fun. NCAA or NBA, it's one city at a time, a couple people at a time, and it's not an event. Everybody after the game, everybody goes home. Like Big Ten's NCAA, it is a social event that is bigger because there's that many schools that are there, and you're around all the writers and stuff like that. And I'm going to miss that as much as Indiana does not exactly have like this magical, wonderful travel destination. I've been to Albany for a basketball game before. It's Albany. But I'm going to miss that part. I miss the part of getting in there and there's, 100 some odd media members and maybe 10 or 15, from crossing paths throughout your travels, whether it's national guys or other people at that school that you cover or that they've played before, or people that you knew from college or people you know from here, whatever. Like there's just that social piece I definitely miss about this time of year for sure.
And then, but there's the other side of it that I can see. You get to develop working relationships with the guys you're covering now, where that's almost, I don't want to say impossible, but it is really difficult, next to impossible at the level below that, because you don't get the access to those guys. It's all in a group setting only. There's no, so it's hard to get those morsels that create those great stories that guys like you come up with, because that's where those things come from. They come from little morsels of conversations.
And like you develop quickly a sense of what relationships are like. I mean, and like also, it's just funny, like the difference between like, because you get open locker room at the NCAA tournament, you get open locker room at the Big Ten tournament, and it's like
no open locker room at the Big Ten tournament.
No, okay. Well, you're used to. Pre-COVID, you used to.
Exactly. You used to. See, that's changed.
So I don't know what they're doing in NCAAs if they're finally allowing for open locker room at the
open locker room still.
Finally. Okay, good. Anyway, point of the matter, reason to bring this up and everything is that I will never forget the feeling of, when they made it in 2012, that there was open locker room. And like we got pregame open locker room, and you're like, wow, like, okay, like all of this stuff I've been waiting to do, like all of these years, like we finally get to actually see inside of this place. And like we're in Portland, and it is just a madhouse. And it's like you couldn't have a conversation with people. I mean, there's just so many media members in there, just like everybody's got a scrum outside of them, around them and stuff like that. And so it's just different, like because it's something you have so rarely. It is something that everybody just jumps on so desperate. Like, wow, we go to get open locker room. And every day you get open locker room every night. Like most pre-games, I don't ask any questions. I just walk in there and hang out. Most pre-games. Like, it is such a feeding frenzy.
So there's open locker room before the games?
There's open locker room before the games. You have open locker room starting at like.
That's mind-boggling.
Yeah, I know. But like, you don't need it. It's like kind of extra, but I mean it's helpful because
I'm shocked. I'm shocked that grateful for you, happy for you, but I'm shocked that is something that they do. But that shows,
right? But they don't
they're
have
not afraid.
Yeah, but they also don't have
to control the narrative as much.
I mean, they still do, but it's not. It's not the same. They're grown-ups. Number one. Number two, guys don't have to be in there. Like it's not like they have to be in open locker room and pregame and do media duties. It's just got to be open. You've got to be allowed in. They can hide wherever they want, like especially in their home locker rooms. Like if they want to go lift, if they want to go get treatment, if they want to go warm up during the open media period, they can do that. Like they don't have to be there. So like a lot of days I go in there and there's maybe 3 or 4 guys. And so it's like, and a lot of times it's the same guys, just this how their sort of pregame routine clocks out, that this is the time where they're in locker room. And if there's news, you pretty much should write it at that point. Like if you find out from Rick that, hey, these 3 guys are out or these 2 guys are out, like you should really use the open locker room time to go write. It's just kind of a nice little bonus just to go in there and say hi to everybody. But like, I mean, because you're playing a game in an hour and a half, like you're not churning out anything that's like, earth shattering in that period of time. If you've got a longer term feature and there's a guy in there that you want to talk to, it's helpful. But it's not the same. Whereas like open locker room for college ball, it's like, again, like it is appointment viewing. Like you have to be there for that. Like you absolutely change your travel plans to make sure you can get there. Because it's so rare. It's just so rare of an opportunity to have. It's just different in the NBA. And it's just, again, there's value in just being in the room and watching the guys. Even if you don't quote a single thing, even if it's all off, you don't put anything on the record, you just watch them make fun of each other and crack on each other and everything. And then you have a sense of who they are and what the relationships are like and how it all bonds together. Like you can get a lot out of an open locker room by not asking anybody any questions, not doing anything on the record. And bottom line, all what I'm telling you is it's a totally different universe. It just is. It's totally different. Pro ball, college ball, the media environment is totally different. And for that matter, as I've probably said before, it's different at IU than it is in other places. Like if you go to Purdue when there is a much smaller media core, you get to know people. You don't get open locker room, but like you get one-on-ones with guys pretty much whenever you want. Because there's only going to be 3 people showing up at media. So like you can literally like have a rotation where like you get Zach Edey for 10 minutes and then you get, Brandon Newman for 10 minutes and whatever. And like you get to know them and they see you around and it's like, okay, it's those 3 guys. When I was there, it was me, Brian Newbert and Mike Carmen. And that, and that was it. And we showed up for every media availability. So Eric Hunter knew who we were. Sasha Stefanovic knew who we were. Travion Williams knew who we were. Whereas in Indiana, you show up and it's a big podium thing. And there's like 20 of you. And the reason why that is because IU has a great media school. And so every day at IU, there's like 25 kids who are going to be at the New York Times someday, showing up at IU media practice. Or IU media availability. And so there's the trade-off. And the cool thing is, like we'll bother those kids for jobs someday, so like I'm going to go bother Tyler Talkman when he gets hired at the Ringer or whatever, because he's going to be awesome. And Wilson Moore is too. And all those guys, and Matt Cohen, if he's listening. Probably none of them are, but all good dudes. But that just makes this really big, packed media environment. It makes for a ton of requests from JD Campbell, and like that's just the difference.
And JD tries to be fair to everybody. It's hard to accommodate everybody. So because IU has the largest media contingent in the Big Ten by far, and possibly when I say IU basketball. It may be one of the biggest in the country. I don't know. It's because of the media.
From a basketball standpoint, it is. From a basketball standpoint, it is. Football is obviously a different animal where, like, it's, Ohio State and Penn State, you get, like, all corners of the state come to football games, So, like, I mean, when I was growing up, when I was covering Penn State in school, I mean, you had Pittsburgh, you had Philly, you had Lancaster, you had Harrisburg, like, literally every corner of the state, Erie, had a representative showing up at football games. And so it was a full deal on Saturdays. Indiana's a little different. You don't have anybody coming down from South Bend. But still, it's from a basketball standpoint, it's up there. I'm sure it's, Kentucky is that big. And, I don't know about the Carolinas. I imagine they are. But yeah, it's rare, basically being as big as Indiana is.
Yep. We've got to take a break. We'll come back and then see if you've looked at your brackets, man. Have you looked at the brackets at all?
Yeah, I had an off day yesterday, so all I did was watch basketball and look at brackets.
Man.
And I watched the Oscars. I just did. Because
we'll talk about Indiana's first opponent, Kent State, because I'm going to have to try to get Michael Lewis back on.
Yeah.
Played Kent State often, and they had some battles. Michael won 20 games in his first season for Ball State this year, by the way. They went 20-12.
Yeah, fine work.
The MAC was tough, man. They had 4 teams. Kent State at the top, and they won 6 straight, by the way. Toledo, 27-7. Akron's 22-11, and Ball State 20-12. But we'll talk about all that stuff when we come back. Hey, if you're looking for a home down in the southern Indiana, Louisville area, Barbara Pop Real Estate Services have served those communities for over 3 decades. And that's who you need to reach out to. No one can get you in the home quicker or less expensive than Barbara Pop Real Estate Services. Reach out to Barbara at barbarapop.com or our friend Matt Lincoln, Matt at barbarapop.com. Back with more from Dustin Dopirak right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore. I was coming through Indy on, whenever it was last week, on to Chicago, and I was going to stop and drop off a box to Chris Denari and then one for him to give to you, but I forgot to stop because I was in a hurry to get to freaking Chicago, and about halfway there, I'm like, damn, I didn't go by Denari's. So, but I also knew that.
That's what I meant.
Oh, he's out of town. You were out of town, I think. That's
probably.
No.
When was it? Thursday? No, I was in town Thursday.
Remember. Right. Wednesday, I don't know.
When you're rolling through Indy to go to Chicago, like you're just trying to get on 65, man. Like I get it. I've been there. I've been in that. Like when you're coming up from Bloomington and you got a 4-hour drive, you're not trying to mess around in Indy.
Well, I was going to stop, and I just forgot. I'm ADHD, and boy, I started looking directions. I'll get off here, do this. And I'm like, everything else is out the window.
Right.
So 2 things. I'm out at 10:10, so I'm letting you know that now. Second is 5 Left says Dustin Schutte would probably get into a fight if he talks sports at a bar. No.
Wow.
I have just gotten to the point where I just say what people say, what do you do? And I say I'm a writer. I don't add the sports because I don't need the commentary.
It makes you sound like a novelist. That's I think like the immediate like connection is like you were a fiction writer and then you
that might be. So I mean, some people go into detail. Like there's some people you just kind of get the vibe. Like I've had good conversations with people about sports, but people that are just like, oh yeah, I was there when Babe Ruth hit that historic home run. I'm like, okay, let's not do this. People do that all the time.
What bars do you go to when you have people having Babe Ruth stories? Like, are you at like
let me ask, are these called
go to the American Legion? Like,
are you going to speakeasies?
No, I'm not. But this was I've lived in a lot of metro areas, Orlando, Atlanta, Indianapolis, and I don't know what it is, but it's just like, oh yeah, I always wanted to do that. I'm great. I know all about sports. I'm like, well, a lot of people do, but it's not just about your knowledge. You have to be able to formulate thoughts and put them into sentences. Like,
right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that sometimes. I get the,
and I'm not like, I feel like this probably sounds bad. Like I'm not badgering people that want to talk sports. I'm just saying, if we're having a conversation, you don't have to tell me every single bit of knowledge you have about said sport. Let's just have a conversation about what's happening.
You don't have to qualify it. Yeah. Like,
exactly. Exactly.
It's like, we can talk. We're good. Like you don't have to justify speaking to me about this. Yeah. No, that's for sure.
All right, here we go, guys.
Market with no extra charge, so leave the heavy lifting to us and enjoy healthy eating with stocked meals in your fridge. Order online today at thefreshfork.com. Fresh Fork is a proud partner of WOW Network. This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday, the 13th, brought to you by our good friends at Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Make sure you stop by there when you're down or in and around. Great Cajun cuisine, great place to catch the NCAA tournament, which starts Thursday. Our good friend Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star with us now. Indiana does not play until 9:55 Friday night.
I mean, first off, Indianapolis bars are looking for this. This is an all-time one, by the way, because they've got Purdue at 6:50 and Indiana at 9:55, and it is St. Patrick's Day. So, like, Indy,
oh my God, I did not even think about that.
how did you not? I mean, I guess it's because I don't have to cover it. Like I absolutely thought about it. So like, yeah, I mean,
I'll tell you why, because I was up till midnight last night looking at nothing but hotel rooms, flights, this, that, and the other thing. And I'm like, God, I just got home from Chicago, and you go straight to that and trying to get all that stuff figured out, and it's like it's a headache.
Yes, but yeah, so St. Patrick's Day, 9:55 p.m. So like everybody, especially whoever might be taking the day off to get tuned up all day, it is a marathon, not a sprint, kids. Just for the record, important knowledge to know. But yeah, no, like that's late. It's so late, but it's Friday and it's St. Patrick's Day. You know, like,
well, this will be a St. Patrick's Day that I guess I won't get to participate in.
That's true. You got to actually work. Shame.
And that game will not be over before midnight.
I'm going to wear my.
No chance. No chance.
I don't have to work that day, so I'll be wearing my "It's a Bad Day to Be a Beer" shirt and consuming adult beverages.
Good. There you go. That's the spirit right there. Should always be that way.
I will remember to take something green with me. I'll do that.
Go. That's, there you go.
Are you going to fill out a bracket?
Yeah. I am still an American, Jim, just because I don't cover the NCAA.
I am American.
Did something changed like that?
Still alive. That's like the Jeff Brom thing. I'm alive.
Am
I
alive? Is this football? Then yes, I'm playing.
Oh my God! What a great, what a great clip to have if you're a head coach. Holy cow!
No, it works. So yeah, I will be filling out the bracket. I have not done one yet. I have not begun. I've taken a basic glance at it. But I mean, I think this is gonna be a wide open tournament. It just has that sense that it doesn't seem like anybody's very good. But my one concern is I think Alabama might be very, very good, and that's going to make for a weird couple of weeks.
They're playing through some tough situations, which makes you tougher.
Right. That's a great way to put it. I mean, that's certainly a euphemism for it.
Does getting to the national stage, they're not going to escape it, because the first thing that came out of Greg Gumbel's mouth last night when he announced them was, I mean, literally after saying Alabama, the number one seed, was they dealt or got through criminal activity and not having charges. That was boom. I'm like going, wow. Yeah. That was just, he just threw a big old sticker on him right there. And so, they're not going to escape that. That's going to be a storyline throughout this entire tournament.
It is. And I mean, like right now, like, I mean, again, you might ask me in a week, ask me in 2 weeks, like, does it matter? Like, is this something that's waiting on them? They've been dealing with it for weeks, and they seem to be getting better. Like, they seem to be getting better, with it. Like, they almost seem to be embracing being the team that nobody wants to see win. I mean, I don't know if they're hated. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's because it's an awkward deal, because obviously Brandon Miller wasn't the guy who did it. The guy who actually, again, in the legal sense, supplied the gun is off the team. And the other guy that actually used it was never on the team in the first place, as far as I know. So, on some, it's just the third guy in line is still on the team, but he happens to be maybe the most talented player playing college basketball this season. Maybe not, like, he's not going to be the number one pick because there's other guys playing other places that are better, but like, he's probably the most talented guy in college basketball this year. And so he's going to be, he's actually absolutely going to be looked at. And like, it is not going to be a fun story when, like, he plays and he could be awesome and he could win most outstanding player. And there's this thing that's going to be hanging over him, and nothing's going to change. There are not going to be any charges, like, there is not going to be, the Alabama, the state of Alabama is not going to swoop in and sort of.
Oh, hell no. They'll do the opposite.
Right, exactly. Well, I mean, but it's like again, there's nothing that you could have ever charged him with. He provided something that was his, and that person did something illegal with it. So, but you can't hold him accountable for what somebody else did with their own property. So, bottom line, there's nothing that's going to get this guy off the floor. That's not coming, and so he is going to play. He is going, and they're going to get as far as he takes them, and that's going to be the story. Is there going to be some wear with that? I don't know, but again, they look bigger and badder every time I watch them, and they're Alabama. Like, I mean, like SEC, like in the SEC, hate fuels you, like in every sport. Like that's true across the board. Schutte, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I do know what you're talking about. Yes.
When they are hated, they love it. They run on hate down there. Like it is a constantly fueling mechanism, man. Like Tennessee baseball loves your hate, loves it. Absolutely just feeds on it. And so yeah, like they're from the SEC, man. They're not gonna be afraid of nothing. Like they're gonna get all these questions from national. They'll be like, we don't care, we're playing. And they could win. They're scared of nothing. And like, I mean, again, there might be some wear and tear when you get every national guy in there. And Brennan Miller's still a freshman, and like maybe when but like there have been enough national people to descend it down there. Like it's not going to be the same as it's going to be in the tournament, but there have been people down there, like there have been people that have been sent down there like, hey, go cover this. Like Coley Harvey was down there, ESPN national reporters are going and spending some time. Mike Rothstein was down there. Like, and they're going to write exposés for the Final Four, like there's going to be stuff that comes out, but is that going to matter? I don't know. Right now, it's not trending toward that it will.
Something else to look forward to is a potential matchup with Indiana and Houston. And that wouldn't take long. As a matter of fact, that would occur in the round of 32.
Mm-hmm. Sweet 16.
Yeah. Indiana's the 4, Houston's the 1. Hey, I mean, Rob Senderoff, we got like recurring NCAA drama right out of the gate, man.
And it's all the time. And there's no way it's not that it's accidental. They love to do that stuff, and but I think it's great drama.
More power to them, frankly, as far as I'm concerned. Just like it's like create chaos because you can. If you were the NCAA tournament committee, you like if you put all 3 of us in the room and we had to be objective or in theory, but like we also wanted to do stuff and have fun putting together a tournament, would we create chaos? Yes.
Oh, hell yes.
Yeah, 100%. Like if you let us 3 of us like, oh, look at this.
I'm like, no. Put these guys here. Make them play. Make these 2 coaches play each other.
Exactly. We would so do that. We would.
I own it in the bracket with Kentucky. I promise you. But
we would totally do that.
I feel like look. I mean, here's one that I feel like got overlooked or not talked about would be that 8-9 matchup between Bruce Pearl and Fran McCaffrey.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 loose cannon coaches on the sidelines at the same time.
Bruce is not that much of a loose cannon.
He can't. Well, okay, he's not.
Compare him to Fran McCaffrey.
Well, no, but he has his moments.
Yeah, one he has his moments. One he has just a lifetime, a career of crazy stuff. Some of which was NCAA legal at the time. So yeah, Bruce Pearl. Yeah, God, like him and Fran. I think Pearl was a Iowa assistant, wasn't he? I think I could be wrong about that. Maybe look.
That's a good question.
I'm going to go ahead and Google that while we're talking. But yeah, I think.
Well, while you're doing that, I was in on a conversation over the weekend that involved the official.
Yeah, it was 86 to 92. 86 to 92. Bruce Pearl was an Iowa assistant.
There you go.
I did not know that. He was also a former head coach at the University of Southern Indiana. Didn't know that.
No, I didn't know. 92 to 2001. Did not know that. And then it was Milwaukee, and then it was Tennessee when he really hit the, went public.
The big time.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But remember the instance where Fran McCaffrey did the stare down with the official?
Yeah, that was hilarious.
I heard the account from the official was he's asked what was going on. He goes, well, he come out and he did that. Did what he did. He said, I took one step forward, and he said he took a step because I'm thinking in my mind, he takes another step, he's gone. Or if he says a single word, he's gone.
Yeah.
and that's when he didn't say it out loud. He was just telling himself this, and that was McCaffrey. He said he stood there and finally turned around. But he goes, in the next moment, it was gone, and so it was funny just to overhear that, and to hear conversations with officials and at tournaments. That's the great thing about covering these events to me, is when you're not really working, but you're there and there's so much other things going on, and you just are able to absorb things that you otherwise wouldn't have because you weren't there or at that time, and that's the great part. Those kinds of conversations that, like you being in the locker rooms and whatnot, those are the great things.
It's just being around people. I mean, like that's the big part of reporting and whatnot. It's just like, it's why you got to be in the location,
being around them freely.
Right. And so, I mean, you might be able to use it. You might not be able to use it. You might be in a position where you could say, hey, can I talk to you about what that thing that you were just saying, but with a tape recorder? And
like the story I just told. I'll tell the story, but I'm not going to. I'm not going to tell who was the participants in the conversation.
Right. I mean, like there's all
kinds of official.
Yeah. You have also totally told like if anybody's listening to this, you could totally find out what they said. The point of the matter. I mean, that's a big piece of it, is just being around people, just crossing paths, and and when it gets to tournament time, between conference and real tournament time, everything is a little bit more free, and because people are in the building for other stuff, there is more opportunity to cross paths where during the season it is much more easy to cloister everybody and make sure that everybody is just here and just there when you're supposed to be there, and that the media shows up and the media goes away and it doesn't get to hang around and see people and cross paths with people. Whereas the tournament, it's much more difficult to control that, and so you're just around guys. So it's cool. So
I'll answer this question later, but before we have to lose you. Do you have a Final Four?
At this point, I don't. Give me a second. All right. I'm probably gonna pick Arizona just for the purpose of I don't know if I want to see it.
Before the tournament started, I was sold on Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that they can't. Texas has beat their ass twice.
Yeah. I don't love Kansas. I don't.
Jim's predicting an all Big 12 Final Four because he loves the conference so much.
I do. Hey, I do love the Big 12. I'm not going to lie to you. I love the amount of great, tough teams they have.
I'll be honest. Like, I mean, I'm looking back at the bracket again. Like, there is not one region where I feel like stone cold comfortable saying somebody's going. I don't. I mean, I don't like.
There is no Duke from 92 and 93 or Indiana. There are no teams that we're going to win it.
If not for for the thing we just talked about, I would pick Alabama, and that would be the one team that I would feel really confident in. In the Midwest, I don't love anybody. I mean, like, I think Texas is pretty good. I mean, it just Houston, is Sasser going to be 100%? He says he is. Groins are tricky. I don't know, whether they're going to be there or not. I mean, like, I think Kansas gets through to the Elite Eight without too much of a problem. I mean, I don't love UConn or St. Mary's enough to get them. But Gonzaga or UCLA could get them. I kind of like that UCLA team, even though they lost one of their big guys. Again, like, I don't trust Purdue at all. I think there's a pretty good chance they lose to Duke, because I think Jeremy Roach is better than any of those guards. I just do. I mean, Jeremy Roach is playing a really high level basketball. So if Duke gets by Tennessee, I like Duke to get him, and I think Tennessee might get him too. I mean, Edey just X factor is not the word. I mean, he's solid. You're going to get like 30 and 15 from him in most of these games. It's the question of, can they get anything from anybody else? And I just don't think there's enough. I think guard play matters too much in the tournament.
Exactly. So the first time they run against a team that has veteran and good defensive guards, Purdue is in deep doo-doo.
Yeah, exactly. And somebody that can score on them and can defend them, like, again, like Hood Schifino made them look bad. And so I think there are other guys that can do the same. And they
nearly lost yesterday. Penn State made a hell of a run and almost completed that comeback.
Right, exactly. So, I don't trust Purdue. Again, again, Bama, I just don't know that everybody wants to see it. But, Bama, Arizona is going to be a good game if it happens. And I have a hard time imagining that Bama will be out before the Elite Eight. I don't see Virginia or San Diego State slowing them down. Arizona can make a big game of it. I mean, I love those two bigs, Bello and Sibelius and like Kreese. I don't love their guards either, but they are what they are. I mean, I think I like Arizona over Baylor. Texas and Houston, if it gets that far, has a chance to be interesting. I mean, I don't think it would be crazy for Indiana to beat Houston. Indiana can lose to Kent State. I mean, I totally there is no right now. There is no outlook for Indiana that I will tell you that you're stone cold wrong. They could get beat by Kent State. They could get beat by Miami. They could get beat by Drake if Drake beats Miami. They could get beat by Houston, but they could beat all of those teams. And I don't think that there's anybody in the southern half of that bracket that they can't beat. Xavier, Texas, I don't think it's out of the question that they could beat those teams. I mean, if you tell me Indiana goes to the Final Four, I believe you. If you tell me Kent State beats Indiana, I believe you. Any outlook is possible for Indiana.
Well, we'll certainly have a look at it the next time we get to speak, man. We'll have a chunk of games out of the way and upsets. Upsets are coming. Yes, and I don't know how much longer are we going to consider them upsets when they're happening in this tournament, because it's just become expected.
I mean, seed still matters. We're never going to decide that a 14 beating a 3 is not an upset. And frankly, they're bigger now. Here's why. Real quick before John kicks me off. When 14s, 15s, 16s, and even 13s win now, mid-majors are not the same. Mid-majors got rated. Remember, everybody that got up to a certain level between about 2006 and 2012 is in a big league now. Butler's in the Big East. Butler's not a mid-major anymore. VCU's in the A10. George Mason's in the A10. All those programs that got to be something, got some level of staying power, moved up into these conferences that they're not Power Fives, but they're right below that. The Atlantic 10s, the Mountain Wests, even the Big Easts. So a lot of those programs that used to be that got some kind of staying power got to bigger leagues. So the teams that are getting 14s are in even smaller conferences than they used to be. So on some level, it is a bigger upset, when teams that are that far down the bracket pull it off now, because there's even more weighing against them. Everybody else kind of graduated. So they're at even more of a disadvantage when they pull some of these off. So yeah, they're always going to be, a 12 beating a 5 is a 12 beating a 5. It's still not that big of a deal. 11s over 6s are nothing. 10s over 7s are nothing. But when you get into the 13s, the 14s, the 15s, these schools are at even more disadvantages than they used to be in those spots. So I think it's still a big deal. It still matters.
Dustin Dopirak, look forward to seeing what happens next Monday. Go across the river and enjoy a Molson.
Yeah, I didn't bring my passport. I got to get that taken care of. So I'm sure I can get a Molson in Detroit. I don't think that's going to be that hard to procure.
What's funny? I remember being in Detroit and just going over to Ontario, Windsor, Ontario, there right across the river. Yeah. Like I was going across the river to, down in southern Indiana. Now you can't do that.
You got to have a passport now, man. You got to have a passport. And so I can't find mine. I couldn't find it in our move. So I have an appointment to get a passport replaced.
Yeah, I've got to get mine
in a week. So yeah, that's be fun.
Mine was out. I couldn't go to the Bahamas last year to cover Indiana because I didn't have my passport updated. I'm like, crap.
Yeah. That'll do it. Do it.
Nuts. So. Dustin Dopirak, buddy, go get some rest. Enjoy your day. Appreciate you so much.
11:20. No rest. All right, y'all.
No rest for the weary. No rest for the weary. Dustin Dopirak, Indy Star. We love him. We live him. Can't live without him. Brought to you by our good friends from Metalworks Brewing Company. Dr. Hops right here, baby. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Dustin Schutte and myself, Jim Coyle, right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for a
What?
I don't know. It just
Is there a comment?
no. You just made a sound, and I was like waiting for something to say, and nothing came, so it made me laugh. It's also Monday, and I didn't sleep again last night. So
Well, that's
I'll
disappointing.
tell you one thing I did do is fall asleep last night.
did you? That's good.
No doubt about that.
I was really worried, Jim, considering I knew you were in Chicago on Central Time. Plus, you were you had the daylight savings this past weekend. I just thought that was a recipe for disaster.
Well, I'm worn out. I'm not gonna lie to you, but it's more because of the 5 days being in Chicago doing all that, and everything was late. And not only was it late, it was Central Time, like you said. So it was in real life, everything was an hour later. Dustin talked about normally getting when you're in those situations, you get together and all that. I didn't, not one time. It was by the time you got Indiana played the late game both nights. I'm like, luckily, most people stayed at the media hotel, which is further downtown. I was a 10-minute walk from the United Center.
A 10-minute walk?
Yes.
Whew.
That's insane.
You think that's bad?
I mean, I'm surprised there's a hotel near the United Center.
Well, everyone said that too, and I just happened to find this, and I think it's a hidden gem.
It might be.
The price was right. It was nice. The rooms were like, if you've ever been to Manhattan and had a hotel room,
No.
they were about the size of a room in Manhattan. I didn't care.
No, because all you're
The
doing is
bed was
sleeping.
great. It was clean. Boom. I just needed a place to sleep, shower, because I'm not there at all.
Yeah.
But it literally is 4-6 blocks away, probably.
I can't remember where I stayed in downtown Chicago for Big Ten.
And then
Media
everybody
Day.
said, "Oh, it's a bad area." I'm like, I had no issues.
It's. I don't think
Here we
it's.
go,
I don't. Okay, never mind.
Of a passion for beer, food, and custom metal art. Check out their custom growlers. Metalworks Brewing Company has an updated menu, new brews, and will be offered in all Endeavor Hospitality restaurants. Come taste with Dr. Hops' Brewing. Metalworks Brewing Company. Bring your passion and your thirst.
This segment is brought to you by K-Bello. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. It is Tournament Monday as the NCAA tournament begins tomorrow, actually, with the play-in game. And, I don't even know who's playing in that. I know Mississippi State is. So it looks like Texas Southern, FDU. Who's FDU? Fordham?
No, Fairleigh Dickinson.
Farley Dickinson. All right. Farley Dickinson is one of the play-in games. Then you've got Southeast Missouri. And who's TAMU? CC, man.
Texas A&M Corpus Christi.
See, that's whoo. Thought I knew
You know
them
what
all,
was
but-
funny yesterday was, so I got to tell this story real quick, and I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want to embarrass him. But my friend texted me yesterday when they were revealing the bracket. Alabama was the very first team off the board, the number 1 seed. And then obviously the 16th seed was Texas A&M Corpus Christi or whoever they're playing. And he sent me a text, and it said, damn, they're already going to do a rematch between Alabama and Texas A&M. And I laughed so hard because I'm like, no, man, They're not. That's the wrong Texas A&M. I can understand why he mixed that up, but I'm like, there's no way in hell.
But not
Texas
being
A&M is going to be
seed.
Exactly.
What was I going to say? Oh yeah. How about this for a play-in game? Mississippi State and Pitt.
Yeah.
I thought
and Pitt's been pretty good.
I thought Pitt was in.
Yeah, Pitt's been solid. Well, of course,
obviously not solid enough.
No, well, I mean, I feel like they're one of those. Excuse me. I feel like they could be like a Notre Dame or a Rutgers, or maybe not like a VCU that played the play-in game, got to the Final Four, but they could be a dangerous play-in game team.
How about and then, all right, this side of the bracket, they're playing games are pretty damn good. The other side, it's like. The final one here is damn it, I lost it. Oh, Arizona State and Nevada.
Yep.
Who's coaching Arizona State?
Hurley, isn't it?
That's what I thought.
Yep.
So you got Bobby Hurley against Steve Alford.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
So I thought that's where he was going. So you got Bobby Hurley against Steve Alford. Who's his brother coaching now?
I don't know.
Danny Hurley, because someone asked which Hurley should be more concerned. I forget who he coaches. It's hard to keep up with all that stuff.
There's a lot of college basketball teams. I got to be honest. I don't know all the coaches, but Bobby Hurley's been at Arizona State for a minute.
Well, Danny Hurley, his brother, is also a coach at a high level. As a matter of fact, UConn. Damn. There you go. I think they get beat in the last day of their tournament. I think. I didn't realize he was at UConn. Wow. All right. So there you go. All right. So looking at the, I guess we'll look at Indiana's bracket first. The Midwest. Someone mentioned earlier potential matchup with a rematch with Iowa. And, I thought about not that, but I thought about the fact of a matchup, Iowa and Houston, because Iowa can look terrible or they can look like they did against Indiana and Bloomington, but I don't know if that was more about Iowa or more about Indiana.
I feel like a
combination of the both.
I feel like Iowa's a microcosm of everybody in college basketball this year, to be honest.
Have great games and then look like crap.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though, and John and I talked about this in the opener. In his 467 years of being a head coach, Fran McCaffrey has never reached the Sweet 16. So I have no faith that he's going to do it this year. I mean, like, why? It's kind of like Purdue.
How many seasons?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's got to be 20. It's got to be 20 between Siena and Iowa. It's kind of like Purdue with the Final Four, right? Like you get to a point where you believe it when you see it. Doesn't mean they're not good, or it doesn't mean they can't get there. But Purdue hadn't been to a Final Four since 1980. Fran McCaffrey's never been to the Sweet 16. Why would you pencil Iowa in for 2 wins? Like they might win their first. I don't know that they're going to win their first game. They might, but I don't think they're going to win 2 games just because he's never done it before. So what makes this year different?
Good point. Good point. And that would be requiring to beat a hell of a team. So
yeah. Which is weird to me, Jim. Think about how Iowa plays. You would think that style of basketball would be really good in the NCAA tournament to get up and down the floor. I mean, I know it requires a lot of shot making, but it's not like they don't have shooters. They got Peyton Sanford, they got Connor McCaffrey, they've got Chris Murray, they've got some Tony Perkins, they've got some dudes. They had dudes last year.
Got some dudes.
But their inability to play defense, and then if they're not hitting shots, like you said, they could win games 95-85, or they might get beat by 20 points because they just don't play defense. And if they're having a bad shooting night, lights out, you're done. Going back to Iowa City.
Yeah, I was going to try to go to the bracket pool that Pete set up. It's on ESPN.com. The group is Indiana Sports Beat fans. And the password is Indiana. It's pretty simple. So I'm trying to, as I enter, I don't want to create a bracket. How do I, there it is, groups. Just open that up. I'm not currently part of a group.
You'll see my lovely bracket name in there, surely, if you want to read it out loud.
Remember, you have a bracket name?
I do have a bracket name in there already. I have filled it out. You can't see who I've chosen, but you can see that I've submitted it.
So I need to join a group. I'm trying to do this so everyone else does not have trouble either. If there are any problems or my groups. How do I join a group?
You have to click on the group and enter the password. You already found the group, didn't you?
No, I did not. Oh, it's down below.
What's the password?
It's Indiana with a capital I.
What's the password, Kenneth? What's the password? Do you know what that is from? Anybody? Anyone?
Anyone?
Bueller?
Anyone?
Bueller?
I know that one.
What's the password, Kenneth?
I don't know that one.
You can actually have two references for it. The second would be a line in an REM song.
Okay.
But it was taken from the first when former CBS News anchor Dan Rather was accosted on the street in New York once. And he said, all they said to me was, "What's the frequency, Kenneth? What's the frequency?" Man.
Did not know that.
My mind is just filled with all kinds of useless information.
Be great at trivia night.
Probably not. I'll get into the. Oh, there we go. Just search a group name. Boom, that's easy. So, Indiana Sports Beat.
I like this little sing-song method.
Search, there we go. Pops right up. Boom. I'm in. Create a bracket. There you go. So
I can't wait.
Easy peasy. I'm going to worry about filling it out later. Got to do some studying.
Yeah, sharpen your pencils, sharpen your brain, go back, watch a little film.
No, what you got to do is just, you can't pick too many upsets.
No.
You kind of got to let them take care of that. This is going to be a weird year. You
know what's always fun for me to do is I always fill out two brackets. One is my actual bracket, and then the other one is I just go straight chalk and see which one does better. Because sometimes if you just go straight chalk, even if you don't,
you do okay because it works out at the end. The bigger point games matter more, and you don't screw up as much. Yeah,
exactly.
Who's gonna? I guess that means we got to take a break. Let's see. When we come back, we'll talk about what do you think. Dustin's out, and we'll see him again tomorrow. He's got to go. He's got to go work on his brackets. Get his all bracket tomorrow. When he comes back, he's going to have his bracket filled out.
That's right.
And we're going to go over it.
That sounds good.
Perfect
bracket.
Maybe I'll have mine filled out, and we'll go over mine. And you all can have yours filled out. And we'll pick our national champions and this, that, and the other thing. So, brother, go out and have yourself a good day.
Thank you, sir. See you tomorrow.
And we've got more coming to you, brought to you by our good friends at Reynolds Family Dentistry down in Sellersburg, Indiana. If you're down in the southern part, make sure you stop by. See Dr. J. He'll give you that championship smile you need. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether it's...
All right. I've got a few clips for you.
Damn, the show went fast.
I know. We've got the question you requested, the one that you did for Mike Woodson. Also the same question, not the same question, but the questions that you asked Trace and Race, and then I have an additional one from Race as well. So
okay, great. Damn. Son of a bitch. This travel crap.
I know.
Well, it's not me. It's everybody else's I got to get figured out.
Oh.
And then when I have it figured out the best way, you always got somebody, oh, well, that doesn't work for me. I'm like, well, it needs to.
Has Indiana ever played a tournament game in Albany? It seems like an odd location.
That's a great question. I doubt it because very few people have. I don't recall Albany being a site that much.
I know. I looked up the arena. They're playing in a hockey arena.
Yeah, MVP Arena.
Mm-hmm.
Which should make it a cozy.
Cozy what?
Environment. How much time I have?
Let's see, about a minute 15.
I wrote my name on the bottom of this mug because I love it and I don't want anybody ever to steal it, even though but I hate that every time I lift it up, I see it. John Boy, you can stay in on, well.
If you want to say something, I'll be right here. I'll pop in.
Just stay in the whole time.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
All right, so we've got Mike, then
Trace and Race.
That was a group question, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I did split it up, so like it's not a one big clip. All right.
Man, there was one answer that Mike had that was nice and long, right after me, I think.
2-star prices. Southern Stone Restaurant is part of Endeavor Hospitality's Wow Club.
This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Monday the 13th. I hope everyone's having a great day. Hello to everybody listening on the Ref or River Rats down in the Evansville area. 97.7 ESPN, always the right call. All of our friends up in the region in Chicago listening on WJOB, 12:30 a.m., 104.7 FM, was just all up in that area over the weekend or last week for the Big Ten tournament. Our friends on WBRO 89.9 in Marengo and soon to be 1380 a.m. in Fort Wayne. Looking forward to that. Brackets. And we had the opportunity last night after the reveal to talk to head coach Mike Woodson and Trace Jackson Davis and Race Thompson. I asked Mike, I know that there was probably a little disappointment losing in the Big Ten game, but it gives you an extra day. Getting past that, what does that do for them? What can they use it for to help prepare them for the NCAA tournament? Here's what he had to say.
Well, I think rest, coming off the Big Ten tournament, it gives us an opportunity to rest some legs and get everybody mentally focused on what the task is ahead of us. Tomorrow we'll come in and we'll break down, starting today really, break down K-State and Kent State rather. And and get ready. You know, I mean, there's a lot that goes into preparing for an NCAA tournament game, and you know, your opposing team, they're doing all their prep work on us, and we just got to make sure that we're in tune as a team. You know, when we step out on that floor Friday, that we're ready to go.
That was head coach Mike Woodson for Indiana talking about getting prepared for the NCAA tournament. We also were able to talk to Trace Jackson Davis and Race Thompson, two of Indiana's seniors, about heading into this tournament. And in talking after the Penn State game, Trace talked about them just not maintaining their level of intensity, having lapses of that in games. And so I asked both Trace and Race, what can they do as senior leaders to not allow the team, or when the team does get into that, if they reach that level, what can they do to help them get out of that, to not play that way, to make sure your level of play is up? Here's what Trace and Race had to say.
I think that it's just on the offensive end. We need to play more confident. I feel like when we play confident on offense, everything else is easy flowing. I mean, we're pretty good on the defensive end of the floor, but we can't play tentative. We can't pass up shots. We got to be confident. We worked on this. We worked to get to this moment all throughout the summer. We were shooting shots, and we got a lot of good shooters on our team, and they just got to let it go. And so I think that's the biggest thing for us.
Trace Jackson Davis, they're answering the question. And of course, Race Thompson, here's what he had to say.
I think this is holding each other accountable. I mean, that's something that we've gotten better at throughout the year. And I think that if somebody gets on somebody, we know it's not personal. It's just because we want the best for each other. So I think really just holding each other accountable. And then again, just knowing that this could be your last game in the Indiana uniform, I don't see that happening. So, yeah, that's basically it.
I sent out a great follow-up on that. I sent out a tweet the other day. In Indiana's loss toward the end, Malik Renew, I think he had a defensive lapse on it, and so it allowed an easy score. And Miller Kopp was just pissed off. And he turned around, and you could tell he was telling him, but I mean, he didn't say that was on you. But in essence, he was telling him that was on you because you missed your assignment. And he was emphatic about it. Loved seeing that, to be honest with you. That's senior leadership. Haven't seen that all season from these guys. Need to see more of that. Would like to have seen more of that prior to now to get them a little bit further along. Because I think they need more of that. A little less coddling. And a little more of that, and I think I saw even Jalen Hood-Schifino. Same. It was Malik, a turnover, a pass from Jalen to Malik, and the whole way up the floor, Jalen was just looking at Malik, waiting for a response. I think of him to say, "Well, that was a bad pass," or "My bad," or. He was just wondering what happened on that. But it was like he was holding him accountable without even saying a word, just looking and waiting. So I've seen glimpses here of late of this team doing that very thing, of them holding each other accountable, which have not seen that this year. And I think that was a huge problem, playing together and being happy, and that's great, and you need that for camaraderie. But you also need to be able to rip someone's butt and it not be personal and not be taken personal, because it's not personal. It's about winning. That's all it is. It's about winning. That's why you can see coaches that after they're retired that used to basically, I don't want to say hate each other, but look at Bob Knight and Gene Katie, or instances like that. I saw Bruce Weber over the weekend. He's probably a guy that most Indiana fans probably don't like a lot, but he's a super nice guy. Now, does that replace that stuff back then? You know what? That was in the level of competition, people. And when you're competing, it doesn't matter. You have blinders on it, or if you don't, you're not going to win a lot. But you have to have blinders on. There are no friends at that time. But afterwards, the competition's over. And I love seeing that those guys, they're able to do that. But right now, the competition's on, people. It's time for the NC2A. And don't forget, go to ESPN.com. The group is Indiana Sports Beat Fans. And the password is simply Indiana. We'll put that out. I'll text that. But it's nothing. But, whoever wins, we'll put a nice package together for them, prize package. I have to come up with that over the next day, this week or something. But, yeah, go check that out. The group is Indiana Sports Beat Fans. Separate words. Password is just Indiana. Let's see how many people we can get signed up and who wins. Pete's bragging because he won last year. That's why he set it up real quick. Hey, you want me to set that up again? I'm just kidding. Great friend. Thanks for doing that, by the way. Thanks for everybody else for doing that. But who's going to Albany, New York?
Wrap up.
It's time to wrap it up. We will be coming to you from Albany, New York, Thursday and Friday. So we'll have that going for you. Looking forward to that. But we will be back here tomorrow. Looking forward to talking to Mike DeCourcy, as he was at the Big Ten tournament as well, amongst others, a Chronic Hoosier as well. Big thanks to Don Fischer, of course, to Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star, and Dustin Schutte, our good friend and co-host. We're back tomorrow to do this again. Thanks to John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines. And most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we've got no reason to be here. I'm Jim Coyle. Until tomorrow, I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.